It was 1978. The lights were bright, the audience was cheering. A popular television show, The Dating Game, was on the air. And on the stage, a man named Rodney Alcala sat, smiling. He was contestant number one. He seemed like the perfect catch. He was handsome, with long dark hair and a confident grin that could light up a room. He answered the questions with wit and a certain kind of charm. People watching at home saw a charismatic bachelor, a man who seemed to have it all together. He was a successful photographer, he said. He enjoyed skydiving and motorcycling. He was the kind of guy who seemed exciting, adventurous, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit mysterious. The bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw, was clearly intrigued. She asked him questions, trying to get a sense of who he was behind that dazzling smile. He called himself the banana. He was playful, even a little silly. His answers were smooth, practiced, and designed to win her over. He described his ideal date as a feast, one that would end with him for dessert. It was a bold line, delivered with a smirk that suggested he knew exactly how charming he was. The audience laughed, caught up in the fun of the show. No one in that studio, or watching from their living rooms, could have guessed the chilling secret this man was hiding. He was playing a game, all right, but it was a far more sinister one than anyone imagined. When it came time for Cheryl to choose her date, she picked him. She chose Bachelor Number One, Rodney Alcala. He walked out from behind the partition, his smile as wide as ever. He accepted her choice with a confident nod, a man who expected to win. On national television, he had successfully presented himself as a desirable, fun-loving man. He had fooled the producers, the host, the live audience, and millions of viewers across the country. He had crafted a public image of a perfect bachelor, an image that was completely at odds with the terrifying reality of his life. The contrast was stark, a perfect illusion broadcast for all the world to see. But behind the scenes, something felt off. After the show, when Cheryl had a chance to speak with Alcala away from the cameras, her initial excitement faded. She later said he had a creepy vibe. His charming words on the show suddenly seemed strange and unsettling in person. She felt a deep sense of unease, a gut feeling that something was terribly wrong with this man. She made an excuse. She told him she couldn't go on the date with him after all. It was a decision that may have saved her life. The charming game show contestant was not who he appeared to be, not at all, and the truth was far more horrifying than a simple bad first impression. While Rodney Alcala was charming the nation on television, a much darker story was unfolding in the shadows. He wasn't just a photographer, he wasn't just an adventurous bachelor, he was a predator. At the very moment he was smiling for the cameras, he was in the middle of a horrific crime spree. He had already attacked, brutalized, and murdered several young women. The man America saw on its television screens was a mask, a carefully constructed facade designed to hide the monster that lurked beneath. The charming personality was a tool, a weapon he used to get close to his victims before revealing his true, terrifying nature. The timeline is chilling to consider. His appearance on The Dating Game was filmed in the summer of 1978. By then, he had already been convicted of a brutal attack on an 8-year-old girl, Tali Shapiro, a decade earlier. He had served time, but not nearly enough. He had been released and was now a registered sex offender, a fact he conveniently left out of his game show introduction. The authorities in California were actively searching for him in connection with new, violent crimes. He was a wanted man, yet he felt brazen enough to appear on a national television show, confident that his charm would be his shield, his invisibility cloak. His double life was a masterpiece of deception. By day, he could be the friendly neighbor, the talented photographer who offered to take headshots for aspiring models, or the witty contestant on a popular TV show. He moved through society with an eerie ease, his good looks and smooth talk disarming nearly everyone he met. But by night, or whenever the opportunity arose, the mask would slip. He would transform into a cold, calculating killer. He targeted women and girls, luring them with the promise of a photo shoot, or simply overpowering them with sudden brutal force. The two sides of his life were so different, it was as if they belonged to two separate people. The sheer audacity is what's so hard to comprehend. How could a man wanted for violent crimes feel so safe, so untouchable, that he would put himself in the national spotlight? It speaks to a profound arrogance, a belief that he was smarter than everyone else. He was smarter than the police who were hunting him, smarter than the TV producers who vetted him, and smarter than the women he targeted. He thrived on the risk, on the game of it all. He was hiding in plain sight, a wolf dressed in the most convincing sheep's clothing imaginable, and for a terrifyingly long time, his deception worked perfectly. Rodney Alcala's greatest weapon was not a knife or a rope, though he used those too. His most effective tool was his personality. He had an almost supernatural ability to read people, to understand what they wanted to see, and to become that person. He projected an image of intelligence and sensitivity. He had studied film at UCLA under the famous director Roman Polanski. He claimed to have an IQ of 160. This veneer of intellect made him seem trustworthy, even sophisticated. People, especially the young women he preyed upon, were not just attracted to his looks, they were impressed by his mind. He wasn't just a handsome face, he was a smart, artistic soul, or so it seemed. This ability to deceive was on full display during the dating game. He navigated the questions with ease, his answers a perfect blend of confidence and humor. He knew the role he was supposed to play, the eligible, slightly edgy bachelor, and he played it to perfection. This performance was not an accident. It was the result of a lifetime spent practicing manipulation. He had learned how to mimic human emotions, how to say the right things, and how to create an instant sense of rapport with strangers. He was a chameleon, changing his colors to fit his surroundings, all to hide the cold, empty void where his empathy should have been. Even those who should have known better were fooled. The producers of The Dating Game had a vetting process. They were supposed to run background checks on their contestants, but somehow, Alcala slipped through the cracks. His criminal record, his status as a registered sex offender, none of it was discovered. Was it a simple oversight, or was his charm so powerful that it made people careless? He presented himself so well, seemed so normal, so safe, that perhaps no one thought to dig any deeper. He relied on this. He counted on people to take him at face value, to be swayed by his smile and confident demeanor, and not to look for the darkness he kept so well hidden. This is the most frightening aspect of predators like Alcala. They don't always look like monsters. They don't lurk in the shadows, cloaked in black. Sometimes they stand in the brightest spotlights. They are the charming neighbor, the helpful stranger, the handsome man on television. Alcala understood that society has a blueprint for what evil looks like, and he looked nothing like it. He used our own assumptions and biases against us. He wore a mask of sanity, a mask so convincing that it allowed him to walk freely among us, hunting for his next victim, while the world remained blissfully unaware. One of Alcala's most common tactics was his camera. He presented himself as a professional photographer, and in a way, he was. He was skilled with a lens, able to capture compelling images, but he used this talent for the most sinister of purposes. He would approach young women and girls on the street, in parks, or on the beach. He would compliment them, tell them they had a unique look, that they could be a model. It was a line that appealed to the hopes and dreams of many. He offered them a free photo shoot, a chance to build a portfolio, a doorway into a glamorous world. For many, the offer was too good to refuse. He knew how to make his victims feel special. He would focus all of his attention on them, making them feel seen and appreciated. This intense focus was part of his charm, but it was also a hunting technique. He would gain their trust by talking about art, about lighting, about capturing their inner beauty. He seemed professional, knowledgeable, and passionate about his craft. He would often suggest a more secluded location for the shoot. A place with better natural light, he would say. A quiet park, a remote stretch of desert, or even his own apartment. By the time they were alone with him, they felt comfortable. They believed they were with a professional artist, not a killer. Once he had them isolated, the friendly photographer would disappear. The mask would come off, and the true monster would be revealed. The photo shoot would turn into a nightmare of control, violence, and terror. He didn't just want to kill his victims, he wanted to possess them, to dominate them completely. The camera was not just a lure, it was part of his ritual. He would often photograph his victims during their final, terrifying moments. These were not just snapshots of a crime, they were trophies. They were souvenirs he kept to relive his horrific acts, to savor the power he held over these innocent lives. This method was devastatingly effective because it preyed on trust and ambition. In a place like Southern California, filled with aspiring actors and models, a handsome photographer offering a free portfolio was a common sight. Alcala blended in perfectly. He exploited the dreams of young women, turning their hopes for a brighter future into a trap. He understood their vulnerabilities and used them with chilling precision. The camera, a tool for creating art and preserving memories, became his primary weapon for luring victims into a world of unimaginable darkness from which they would never return. Rodney Alcala was not a disorganized, impulsive killer. His crimes followed a chilling and deliberate pattern. He was a hunter who stalked his prey, often for days, learning their routines and vulnerabilities before he made his move. He targeted a specific type of victim, typically young, attractive women and teenage girls. He sought out those who might be easily flattered or intimidated, those whose disappearance might not immediately raise a major alarm. He was a patient predator, willing to wait for the perfect moment to strike, ensuring he had the maximum advantage and control over the situation. His method of killing was brutal and deeply personal. He often strangled his victims, sometimes to the point of unconsciousness, then revived them, only to strangle them again. This sadistic ritual was about power and control. It was a way for him to prolong their suffering and his own twisted sense of dominance. He would then often pose their bodies after death, sometimes in strange or sexually suggestive positions. This was another part of his ritual, a final act of desecration that served as his signature. The crime scenes he left behind were a testament to his cruelty and his need to feel completely in command. Alcala was also what is known as a souvenir killer. He took personal items from his victims, a piece of jewelry, a driver's license, or a set of keys. These were not items of monetary value. Their value was purely psychological. They were trophies, tangible reminders of his conquests. He kept these mementos, along with the hundreds of photographs he took, as a private collection of his crimes. This hoard allowed him to relive his acts over and over again, feeding his dark fantasies. The most famous of these souvenirs would later become a key piece of evidence that would connect him to a murder he had committed years earlier. This pattern of stalking, luring, torturing, and taking trophies was repeated time and time again across the country. For years, these crimes were seen as isolated incidents. A missing girl here, an unsolved murder there. No one connected the dots, partly because Alcala was constantly on the move, leaving a trail of sorrow from California to New York. He was a ghost, a phantom who would appear in a community, inflict terrible pain, and then vanish without a trace. The full extent of his evil, the sheer number of lives he had destroyed, would not be understood for decades. He was a one-man crime wave, hiding behind a disarming smile. The beginning of the end for Rodney Alcala came not from his television appearance, but from a crime he committed nearly a year later. In the summer of 1979, he lured a 12-year-old girl named Robin Samso to his apartment with the familiar promise of a photo shoot. He had met her and her friend on the beach, using his well-practiced charm and his camera as bait. Robin, an aspiring ballet dancer, was intrigued. She asked her mother for permission, but was told no. Tragically, she decided to go anyway. It was a decision that would cost her her life. She was never seen alive again. When Robin didn't return home, a massive search began. The community was horrified. Her friend was able to give police a description of the charming photographer, and a police sketch artist created a composite drawing. The sketch was crucial. A parole officer who was supervising Alcala from his previous conviction saw the drawing and immediately recognized him. The man in the sketch was the same man he was supposed to be keeping an eye on. Suddenly, the net began to close around the game show killer. The double life he had so carefully constructed was starting to fall apart at the seams. Investigators began to focus on Alcala. They discovered he had access to a storage locker in Seattle, Washington. They obtained a warrant to search it. What they found inside was a house of horrors, a chilling archive of his secret life. They didn't find Robin Samso's body there, but they found something else that would prove to be just as damning. The contents of that locker would finally expose the true scale of Alcala's monstrous activities. The charming photographer, the witty game show contestant, was about to be unmasked for the entire world to see. Robin's body was eventually found in the foothills of the San Gabriel Mountains, about 12 days after she disappeared. The evidence against Alcala was mounting: the police sketch, the parole officer's identification, and now the discovery of her remains. But the most powerful evidence was yet to come. It was hidden away in that storage locker, a silent testament to his many crimes. The unraveling had begun, and it would lead investigators down a dark path that revealed a killer far more prolific and more terrifying than they could have ever imagined. The search of Rodney Alcala's Seattle storage locker was a turning point in the investigation. Inside, amidst a chaotic jumble of personal belongings and photographic equipment, investigators found a small, unassuming pouch. They opened it. Inside were several pieces of jewelry. Most of it was costume jewelry, trinkets of little monetary worth. But among the items was a pair of small gold ball earrings. To the investigators, they didn't look like much at first, but they photographed them, along with everything else, as potential evidence. They had no idea that these tiny objects held the key to locking Alcala away for good. Back in California, investigators were showing the evidence to Robin Samso's mother, Mary Ann. They showed her photographs of the items found in the locker, hoping she might recognize something. She looked through the pictures, one by one, and then she stopped. She pointed to the image of the small gold ball earrings. Her voice trembling, she confirmed that those were the earrings she had given to her daughter, Robin, just a few days before she disappeared. It was a heart-stopping moment. The direct physical link between the victim and the suspect had been found. It was the piece of evidence they desperately needed. This was the smoking gun that prosecutors would use to build their case against Alcala for the murder of Robin Samso. Alcala, ever arrogant, chose to represent himself in court. He tried to argue that the earrings were his, that the police had planted them. He cross-examined Robin's mother himself, forcing her to endure unimaginable pain on the witness stand. But his courtroom theatrics couldn't change the truth. The earrings were a powerful symbol. They were a souvenir he had taken from his 12-year-old victim, a trophy he had kept to remember his crime. And now, that trophy had become his undoing. The trial was a spectacle. Alcala, acting as his own lawyer, was arrogant and bizarre. But the evidence was overwhelming. The sketch, the identification, and most importantly, the earrings. The jury saw through his act. They found him guilty of the kidnapping and murder of Robin Samso. In 1980, he was sentenced to death. It seemed like justice had finally been served, but the story was far from over. The contents of that storage locker held many more secrets, and it would take decades for the true horrifying scope of his crimes to be revealed. The earrings were just the beginning. While the earrings convicted Alcala for one murder, the rest of the contents of his storage locker painted a much broader, more terrifying picture. Investigators had uncovered a vast collection of photographs, over 1,000 of them. The images showed hundreds of different women, teenage girls, and even some young boys. Some were smiling, posing for the camera like in a normal photo shoot. Others looked dazed, uncomfortable, or were captured in sexually explicit and disturbing poses. Some appeared to be sleeping, or worse. The police looked at this massive gallery of faces and felt a cold dread. Who were all these people, and what had happened to them? This collection of photographs became Alcala's second secret legacy. It was a visual diary of his predatory life. For years, law enforcement agencies circulated these photos, hoping to identify the individuals and determine if they were victims of foul play. Slowly, painstakingly, some of the people in the photos were identified. Many were found alive. They were lucky survivors who had an unsettling encounter with a creepy photographer but had managed to get away. But others remained unidentified. They were Jane Does, their faces staring out from the past, their stories unknown. Investigators feared that many of them were Alcala's other victims, their cases long gone cold. Decades passed. Alcala sat on death row, his execution delayed by a series of legal appeals. But advances in DNA technology provided a new way to look at old evidence. In the 2000s, investigators were able to link Alcala's DNA to several cold case murders from the 1970s in both California and New York. The photographs suddenly took on a new, more sinister meaning. He was charged with 5 of these murders and put on trial again in 2010. During this trial, the prosecution presented the mountain of photographic evidence to the jury, arguing that it showed his long-standing pattern of seeking out and victimizing women. The sheer volume of the photos was staggering. It spoke to a level of predatory activity that was almost impossible to comprehend. How many of these smiling faces belonged to women who had met a terrible end? The jury was horrified. They found him guilty of all 5 murders and, once again, he was sentenced to death. The photographs, his treasured trophies, had ultimately become a public catalog of his evil. They were the final, undeniable proof that the charming man from the dating game was one of the most prolific and sadistic serial killers in American history. The case of Rodney Alcala is a chilling lesson in the fallibility of first impressions. He showed the world that monsters do not always have monstrous faces. Sometimes, they have winning smiles and easy charm. He was the devil in plain sight, a man who used his good looks, intelligence, and charisma as a camouflage. He walked onto a national television stage and convinced an entire country that he was a catch, all while he was actively hunting and killing innocent people. His story forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Evil can wear a very attractive mask. What can we learn from this? It teaches us that trust should be earned, not given away freely based on a charming personality or a handsome face. Alcala exploited a fundamental human tendency to believe what we see on the surface. We are often too quick to judge a book by its cover, and predators like him know this and use it to their advantage. Cheryl Bradshaw, the Bachelorette on the dating game, listened to her intuition. After the cameras stopped rolling, she sensed something creepy about him and refused the date. Her story is a powerful reminder to listen to that inner voice, that gut feeling that tells us when something isn't right, even if we can't explain why. Alcala's ability to fool so many people, from television producers to his victims, highlights the importance of looking beyond the surface. It underscores the danger of being swayed by superficial qualities. His intelligence and artistic talent made him seem sophisticated and safe, but they were just more layers of his disguise. We must teach ourselves and our children to be cautious, to be aware that manipulation can be subtle and persuasive. It's not about living in constant fear, but about practicing a healthy skepticism and prioritizing safety over politeness or the fear of seeming rude. In the end, Rodney Alcala died in prison in 2021, an old man on death row, never having been executed. He left behind a legacy of immense pain and a gallery of haunting photographs. His case serves as a permanent grim warning. It reminds us that true character lies far deeper than a photogenic smile or a witty answer on a game show. The most important lesson from the charming killer is that we must be willing to look past the mask, to question what seems too good to be true, and to always trust our instincts. Because sometimes, the most terrifying monsters are the ones who look just like everybody else.